I think that the simplest and the best and most effective way how to act on something that's painful, whether it's psychological, emotional, experiential, it's to just basically take an action of walking. And that's what I do, that's what I did. And I can recommend it to all of you who are going through hard times. Yes, sometimes it's also nice to just lie down and to relax and to give yourself time to recover. That's also part of it. But I think we innately have a need to connect with the external environment, and we don't necessarily have to do it by engagement with other people, which I know that when we are going through pain, when we are going through trauma, it's difficult to communicate with other people sometimes, but it's less difficult to communicate with our environment, with nature. On your walks you can encounter birds, all sorts of animals, depending on which environment. Obviously, some of us are more privileged to live in a countryside, so you have more closeness to nature or with nature. But even if you live in a city, there are parks, there are trees in your areas, there are birds, there are lakes, there are ponds, there are rivers, maybe canal, and all of those spaces, on your walks, during your walks, when you encounter with them, function as some kind of channels. They are channeling the pain, and they, in a way, they absorb it. Whether it's lakes, whether it's greenery, trees, flowers, ducks on the pond, insect, butterflies, whatever they are. I've had a beautiful encounter with a dragonfly. I love dragonflies because to me, dragonfly symbolizes freedom. And it's really interesting how intuition plays a big role here as well. It's very rare to have an encounter with a dragonfly, specifically if you live in the city. You must know places, but I haven't done walking. I haven't done this therapeutic walking for such a long time. Now I have created an image, on the day and on that specific morning of a dragonfly flying above the lake, and I've had that same encounter on the same day, and I've realized that it was something that was meant to be. I have already had an intuition about this encounter because I intuitively tapped onto something that I was supposed to do. I was supposed to connect with. If you are going through trauma, if you have a big pain that you must heal, then I definitely recommend you to do therapeutic walk. But it's not only walking, it's the encounter with your environment. And if you feel like your close environment is not really something that you would like to encounter, it doesn't help you. Well, it doesn't help me because the environment that I live in, it is not particularly understanding of traumatic situations in life, traumatic events. So I have to leave this environment. Usually the closest environment is very unaccepting, is very critical of you, it's very judgmental. You need to pass through that environment. especially if you live in the city and you have neighbors, you have people around you who you feel like you want to escape from. Well, go a bit further. You if you're driving, drive a bit further away from where you live and then walk, or take a public transport and then do some walking. Or if you are slightly braver like me, I do sometimes 3 hours walk a day, and I just pass that area quickly, where I live, because I feel paradoxical, I feel insecure because I don't want people to know how I feel. I don't want to share with other people what something that I feel that's only me. It should be only me. Pass through that area and leave somewhere where you feel like you can be yourself. No one judges you there. No one knows you. You have your intimacy, and the nature, the environment becomes a sanctuary. It's a very I know that intimacy is a very important thing when it comes to healing trauma and pain, and walking helps tremendously. I have had a huge trauma a very long time ago, 30 years ago, and it was something that I thought that I will never get over. I have been in a very bad state, very bad condition, on every single level, physical, psychological, emotional, and I didn't know what to do. For some reason, I just had an idea that I'm going to walk, and it was the right decision that I have made, because with each day I have expanded the area for walking, and thank God at the time I didn't have that many people around me, who would interact with me, because that wouldn't help me. I know that sometimes interactions with other people, particularly those people who knows us, it can be quite traumatic experience as well, because they expect you to be normal, even though we can kind of ask what's normal. We are going through different phases in life. Some of those phases are a bit more normal, some of those phases are less normal. And sometimes our environment just doesn't, the closed environment doesn't allow us to fluctuate, too much further away from that normal. So I was privileged enough to have these beautiful walks on everyday basis, and with each day I became better, and I have healed. I have to say that this process took at least 5 months. 5 months of everyday walking. I have tried to expand on the area, and I have walked further and further and further away. I lived in Prague at the time, so it was I have to say, it was a beautiful environment. And I was healing throughout the spring, summer. And it was very, very helping. The sun was helping as well. So it also probably depends, when are you going through a trauma. It's much easier to walk during the springtime and summer than it is during the autumn and winter. Winter might be quite difficult because there's not much daylight, in a day. But you can do a bit of walking, half an hour walking even does it. And recently I have had a trauma that I had to deal with. I have had many losses, of significant people, and some other traumas, which maybe I will talk again on my channel, because I want to share with you the pain, and maybe it will help you. It will help some of you. Anyhow, I am basically disclosing all this with you because I think it can be helpful to you. And I would like to talk on this channel about similar topics. So I really hope that you will enjoy this close connection, having someone to discuss these experiences. Of course, the big thing in my life, maybe also because I'm gypsy, I'm not saying that tarot cards are necessarily associated with gypsies or Roma people. I call myself gypsy because I like it. It helps me to kind of get closer to my origins, because I grew up in Prague, and it was quite civil, and I was detached from my culture, so it helps me in a way. But we all have different opinions about this. Anyway, the tarot cards. The one tarot card that I would associate with therapeutic walking is the Hermit. It's got that energy surrounding it, because first of all, it's very difficult to find a companion while you're walking. Sometimes you might be lucky, in life to find a soulmate, a companion on your walks, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful experience. But not all of us are privileged enough to do these walks with someone. And me personally, I find it very kind of hermit-like experience. It's this very alone experience, but not in a negative sense. It's got very positive aspect to it, and this is how I like it. I really do think that there is something about this therapeutic walking that when you're doing it on your own or alone, it helps you to connect with the deepest layers of your existence, with yourself and with the environment. You are building a relationship with the environment that is very specific to you. And so you can experience this kind of unique relationship between yourself and the rest of the world, the universe, because the environment represents the universe. What we see, the sky, the sun, the clouds, the trees and the roads, everything around you. Because while you're walking, all your senses are connected with everything around, depending on where you live. So if you live in a city like me, then you have to be aware of the cars, the bikes, and all the kind of noise coming from a train station, and all sorts of different sounds, builders, and there's so much going on in the air, in the environment. And so all of your senses are very much connected with all of those things. If you live in a countryside, then you can connect with the sound of the trees moving in the wind and the lake, or the birds. The birds are possibly the most common sound that's associated with walking if you live in a countryside. But also in the city, we have birds here. But that all, I think, is very healing, because when we are going through trauma, we can be very easily overwhelmed by sounds and by, people talking to us. But strangely enough, if we are on our own and whilst we walk, we can be overwhelmed, but not in a negative sense. So it's a really beautiful experience. And for some reason, I make that association with the card, the Hermit, because the Hermit seems like he wants to be alone, he's in his space. But in a way, I feel because he's got the little lantern and where he carries his light and he's searching for light. It symbolizes the search for light, but also represents the search for the inner self, for the meaning of life. And he's not afraid of anything. I don't think Hermit is afraid of anything. He's a loner. He might be quite introverted. He's looking for like the inner sanctuary. There's also a very strong feminine aspect, I would say, represents almost a womb. But and we can imagine Hermit in the darkness, hiding from what's going on outside in the world. But at the same time, I feel he's not afraid of anything. And even though you are being surrounded by this big universe, by the sounds of the world, still being in progress, progressing towards future, at the same time, you are more connected with yourself and you're stronger. And the more walks you do, the stronger you become, let alone the fact that you are actually doing exercise, which is very beneficial to you as well. Because the last thing you want to do while you are experiencing trauma is to stay home at all times, hiding yourself from the external world. And it's going to be tremendously difficult to come out, opening the door and come out and interact with the outside world. Because I have been there. I have suffered with a very, very strong agoraphobia, which is a fear of leaving home. So I know exactly what I'm talking about here. I have experienced this periodically, but never as much as I did experience that during my teenage years. And after I have gone through this therapeutic walking at the time, it never ever came back as strong. And I'm not saying that will never come back to you, but you have that one tool, therapeutic walking, by your side. As we say in Czech, you have hidden ace card in the sleeve, you can always use when you are in a difficult situation in life. So therapeutic walking is definitely something that I would recommend to you if you are going through trauma, if you have experienced something traumatic, if you have all sorts of emotional, psychological pain that you need to battle. And maybe also you can look at the card, the Hermit, and look at him or her. It really is not only associated with one gender. Hermit can be any gender, even though it's probably more likely to be perceived as a masculine figure. And so, yes, that's all I wanted to share with you for today. Next time I will talk about different topics. Sometimes there will be an overlay, they'll be intertwined. Definitely want to associate my topics of discussion with the tarot cards, and I really hope that these talks will be helpful somehow to you as well. And I hope you are doing well on your journey, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.